Yeah, doing sports while school helps, like, exercise the mind,
Mm-hmm.
as you were saying, and helps you prepare for life after high
Mm-hmm.
school. All right, so the second question was, what is your favorite high school sports memory?
Um, God, I've got a few, and it's a good question because I think a lot of times when you think about your favorite memories, sometimes they're associated with um, like an achievement, right? And so I've got some memories that are associated with, like the feeling I can remember when I won the 100-meter dash as a sophomore, um, and actually crossing that finish line and just realizing like, hey, I just did this, and seeing my coach and seeing my parents and just being overwhelmed with joy. Um, at the same time, some of my favorite memories are the ones that have, are really related to things and experiences with my teammates. Um, one of them that's just still hilarious to me was, we had a late basketball practice. I was a sophomore, and we had some pretty fun seniors, and this is before there were breakaway rims on the side hoops, and my buddy Dave Alt got down on on his hands and knees, and Adam Barrett went off his back and went up and tomahawk dunked a ball, and the rim just completely folded over, right? And then our old athletic director could hear everything through the walls. And Mr. Overgaard comes out and walks down, and he looks at me and he looks at another guy, thinking we were the ones that did it. And it was actually Adam that did it. And so stuff like that, those are the things that you kind of sit back and you chuckle on from time to time. I can remember we had a basketball tournament in Medford. For whatever reason, our coach decided he was going to let us have McDonald's before the game because it was a doubleheader. And, we just went bonkers. We were just, I think I got chicken nuggets that night and a large fry. And so I think a lot of the memories are the things that you remember, and coaches will say to this day, it's not always like, that game you won. It's the time you spend with your teammates accomplishing something. And sometimes it's that moment where it's, you're not actually on the field competing. You might be in practice, you might be going to practice, you might be doing something like that, but um, the majority of your time is not spent actually doing the competition. It's preparing for the competition. And so I think that's where a lot of the value comes. Some of the practices we've had through the years are just absolute classics. Whether it's football or down at the track, I can still hear the coaches, their voices, and yelling at us or yelling at somebody else, and working hard, but still having a good time. So I can't give you one that's more specific.
All right, so the third question was, why did you choose to go to college, and why UW-Madison?
Um, Good question. I guess if I were to answer them in two sections, back then I guess it was just like, hey, go to high school, go to college, right? The expectations were that I was going to go to college. I didn't know where, but I was going to go to college. Um, I chose UW-Madison for a couple of reasons. Um, I think number one, it was close to home. It was a really good school. Both of my stepsisters went there, and they were just coming off one of their Rose Bowl wins, and Coach Alvarez was down there, and the program was back, and it was really high-profile place to go. Had opportunities to go to some other Big Ten schools and some other schools, whether it was for football or track. But ultimately, I think what sealed the deal is that we had a pretty solid recruiting class from Wisconsin that year. So Joe Grabowski, who also went to Everest at that time, he went with me down to Madison. There was a lineman behind me here, Josh Jakubowski. He ended up going to Madison. But Chris Godorsey across town, who's my best friend, he went to Madison. There was a kid from up in Rhineland that went to Madison. friend of mine who's actually now the head defensive line coach that went to Stevens Point, Ross Kalaji, he went to Madison. Ryan Marks went to Madison. And then we had some other guys throughout the state. And so we had a really, really good recruiting class, same year that Ron Dane came in. And it was a good opportunity, and I think it was a good fit for the time.
So, friends, basically, and like team and like chemistry. And then number 4 was it hard trying to balance school, family, and sports at once in high school or college?
You know, I guess from if I were to look at like what's on my plate right now for life, in being a parent and having a job and a lot of other things compared to what I had on my plate in being in high school and being in college, there were probably times where I felt the balance was hard, but the reality is it's not. It's just really preparing you for the realities of what happens afterwards. But you know, I don't think it's too hard. I think if you've got good coaches and you've got good parents and you've got a good support system, a lot of those things are going to fall into play to where they need to. Really, you know, my memory is that it was just kind of go, right? And you get into that rhythm and you get into that as just being like, that's your life, right? You wake up, you might have lifting in the morning. You know, in college, you wake up, you have lifting in the morning, you go to class, you come back, you watch some film, you go to practice, you get done, you have study table, and then you go back home, study more, go to library, study more, or go hang out with friends and party. Like it's just go. And so once you kind of get that mass of yourself and your mind moving in a direction, and you know, you kind of balance things as they come. But you know, overall, I think it's for a lot of people, it's you just stay busy and you don't really realize that you're busy. So I don't know if that answer makes sense.
Yeah,
but balance is something I think we all try to do in life, and every stage of life has a different type of balance to it. And so, you know, again, I think sports is something that helps prepare you for whatever kind of balances you're going to have to balance in the future. So.
All right, question 5 was the transition from high school to college difficult?
Yes and no. I think our coaches here prepared us quite well. Coach Stephen Hagen was fantastic. Coach Holt, Coach Coonan, Coach Salter, Coach Wanta, Coach Reike, you know, they were all pretty old school kind of way of managing and dealing with things. You know, they let you mess up a little bit, but you know, you better learn after the first time or second time. I think the biggest transition issue that you have from going from high school to college really is the fact that you're not fully developed, right? So, you know, you're a young man when you go into college, you're a man when you come out. And that difference in 4 years is very extreme. It's like seeing a senior compared to a 9th grader, right? And so just seeing the speed and the pace that things are being done, I think was the hardest transition. And then, you know, that first year was pretty rough, and just kind of like getting your body able to manage like the pace that you're doing things, and then just getting caught up to the speed. I think when I came in, I was like 178. I think I ended up getting up to like 205 pounds my freshman year. So, you know, there was a lot of change going on. So, I think from a school standpoint, just understanding how to manage your time appropriately and your classes, and expectations between both can be a challenge. And I think in retrospect, there's definitely things that I would have wished I would have gone about differently. But those are things you learn in life. So.
Question 6 is, do you think it would be better in today's day and age in sports, or in high school,
Mm-hmm.
college?
So that's a good question. Do I think as an athlete I could have performed better? I think on the track I probably could have had some better times and maybe jumped a little bit further, just due to changes in how we think about sports, right? I think we were ahead of our time at Everest when I was competing. I think coaches had a good grasp on, how to take care of the body, how to rest, how to make sure you're not beating yourself up too much. But I do think overall, from even if you look at this facility, we lifted upstairs above the men's locker room. Like that was our weight room. Then you went to a larger weight room, and now you have the whole Green Heck facility. So I think maybe some slight changes here and there, and just overall knowledge on technique and sports and all that kind of stuff maybe would have been a little bit better. I don't think significantly better, but I think even with technology, look at shoes, simple things like that can make a big difference. It's a good time to be an athlete right now. There's a lot of technology, and a lot of people put a lot of time into training and really taking athletic training to a high level where they're really looking at data, right? And they're looking at things in a way that are much more scientific than maybe what we were able to do a while back. It wasn't too far back, but 20 years makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because like you said, you used to lift above the weight room, right? And now they have like a whole Green Heck facility that they have, and they lift in there. I haven't really been in there as much, but I heard it was nice in there. So, question number 7 is, what was your favorite college sports memory?
Favorite college sports memory? That's a tough one too. So I played football as a freshman. I had too many concussions my freshman year. There was a former football player there by the name of Al Toon, who was a receiver and then went to the NFL, and he struggled with concussions, and his experience put our team doctors and our football program, I think, out a little bit ahead of the game back in the 90s. And so I had that year of experience, and then I decided to walk away from it. Wasn't sure if I wanted to run track, and then I decided to run track, and I ran track for 3 years. So I kind of had an experience in some football and track. I lived with football guys, spent time with track guys, and if I were to think about a memory that is something that really comes back to me as far as like, hey, this is awesome. I think again, a lot goes back to just those experiences that weren't necessarily taking place when you were competing. So not during football games. There's a couple cool things that happened, but not necessarily during track meets. We had some Big Ten championship, winnings in track, but really just spending time with fellow athletes. I think some of my best memories were going down. I moved out of the house 2 weeks after I graduated. Went down to Madison, was in an apartment with Chris Godorsey, my buddy from across town, and we just kind of had to figure stuff out, right? And going to workout sessions that absolutely blew our minds. And I can remember coming back, and we could barely walk, and we'd look at each other and we'd be like, what did we get ourselves into? But my best memories are really probably just some of the worst workouts that I had to do. I can think of one right away. It was when we were introduced to one-legged squats, and so it was regular squats in a squat rack, followed by getting up on a box and having to do like one-legged squats. And I can remember just looking at the other freshmen, and we were just absolutely miserable. But like those are the memories. Like when I think about college, I think about practices. I think about going out to Blackhawk, which was a ski facility where they do ski jumping, and I think there might be some cross-country trails. But it was my first experience in practicing with the track team, and I decided to run track, not right away into my sophomore year, like not at the beginning. I decided like maybe a month into the year, a month and a half after talking with the coaches and stuff. And so these guys were already working out, and they were going out to Blackhawk, and you get in a bus and you drive out to the western side of Madison, and you get out there, and I will never forget my first Blackhawk experience. I could barely walk back to the bus after that, and that was just basically running hills, doing steps, just an absurd, absolutely absurd workout. I remember those things. Doing well in events and the championships and stuff like that is great, but that's a lot of guys will tell you that's not the stuff that you remember. It's the experiences that you have with your teammates and preparing for the day that you actually compete that really sticks with you.
All right, so obviously I wasn't around back when you were playing sports, but Mr. Hansen, he basically said that you were a top player in all 3 sports that you played. So what was the media attention like in high school?
I think probably I had more from a football and especially from a track standpoint. I've always had it's funny, I think the first time I was in the media was probably when I was like 9 years old. Did quite well at like a local Kiwanis meet, and they wanted to do an article, and sometimes I think I'm not the type of person, like number one, I don't want to be in the newspaper, I don't want to be in the media, it's not my natural personality. And so I think sometimes I would get frustrated and was very careful with my words or what was said because I didn't want things to be misconstrued. So my overall experience with the media from probably 9 years up until I was in high school was hoping to not get interviewed as much as possible, and if I did, to like keep it really simple and to the point and move on and not read what was written because I just didn't want anything to do with it. So that was my experience overall. I think our local media has been great for local athletes and has been extremely fair and does a great job covering them. Just for me, it's just something that I tried to shy away from.
All right, number 9 was, what is your greatest achievement, and which one of your achievements mean the most to you?
I think there's 2. I think having the 4x1 relay team win 4 years in a row, I think is probably one of the coolest experiences I've had from an achievement standpoint, because I had ran with, it was team dependent. We put a ton of time into it. We did baton handoffs in the wintertime when we had chance, running down to the track, you're handing off. Like, Coach Stephen Hagen did a phenomenal job working with us and really making sure that the team was aligned the way it needed to be and we worked together. And to go down and accomplish that, I think is huge. I don't know if there'll ever be another team in Wisconsin that wins 4 Division I 4x1s in a row. Phenomenal accomplishment, and just seeing my teammates have the same experience, and then also just seeing on just bringing in those 10 points, makes a difference to trying to win the team championship. So we won as sophomores, and we won as seniors, and then we were runners up as our junior year. But that was a big accomplishment. And I think the other one would probably be, I think winning the 100 as a sophomore was really cool. Junior year I was a little dinged up, and then coming back and winning it again as a senior, I think are things that if I were to look back at overall, are things that I cherish.
This is not on there, but a side question that I had,
Mm-hmm.
because you brought up Coach Stephen Hagan
Mm-hmm.
multiple times. So I was just wondering, like, what were your favorite or like best memories with him? Because he passed away not too long ago.
You gonna try to make me cry, Jamal? Tough question. A lot of good memories. I don't even know if I can get to it. That man put so much energy into me, and he put that much energy into everybody else too. I mean, he lived to make young men better and to really instill a level of excellence and pride and just belief in yourself that you can do more than what you think, right? He didn't make it easy. He'd build you up, and then he'd recognize when you need to get knocked back a little bit and you need to be challenged. He definitely knew me as an athlete mentally and physically, and I wouldn't be where I'm at in life today without him, hands down. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from sports, is that in the moment you're focused on the sport. When you step away from it, you recognize what that sport did for you in your life, right? The coaches that I've interacted with, going all the way back to my gym teacher, Mr. Simon, who I get choked up about too, who got me involved in track and saw the potential in me. They helped me get better through athletics, and for me at that time, and being mixed race and growing up in this community, like, that was something that made a difference for me. It was something that made me more acceptable. It was something that allowed me to sit at a table with other people, and it was really my first experience with success. And so if you look at our coaches and you look at our teachers, like, that's their job, is to bring out the best in us. And so if I go back and I think about the stuff that Coach Steph taught me, it really wasn't all about what was going on at the moment. It was preparing us for life. So, yeah, Coach Stephen Hagan, I've got so many memories and so many things. The number of hours that I spent with him from the time that I ran track as varsity as a freshman, and the time that I spent with him in track, and the 2 years The 3 years that I had with him with football, sophomore, junior, and senior year, a lot of time with Coach Steffenhagen, a lot of memories, and I think the thing that he did for our community was really bring out the best in young men. And a lot of those people are still in our community. A lot of them have moved away. A lot of them have moved back. But the values and the things that he taught us still live today. So.
Yeah, and the school put a like documentary kind of thing up on him a few months ago, and we watched it in Miss Hanson's class, and it just surprised me how much time and effort he put into his players, and it's just like, just watching it, it's like, wow, you really made a difference in these people's lives. So yeah. All right, question 10 was, what advice would you give a young athlete?
My advice I give a young athlete is recognize the opportunity that you have in being in athletics. Be humble, be coachable, be willing to challenge yourself, be willing to listen, especially when a coach speaks to you. Like, look into their eyes, listen to what they're saying.
Sure.
It might not make sense at the time, but try to figure it out. That's something that you're going to have to do throughout your life. And so just recognize that athletics is an opportunity for you to prepare for the real world and for life, and to learn the things that a sport teaches you, right? Give it your all. Be a good teammate. Trust in your team. Trust your coach. Trust the process. And ultimately understand that, sports is bigger than just winning the game. It's so much more than that, and that's why people love it. It's the ups, it's the downs, it's the struggles that you have. There's nothing like struggling in trying to get better and working with your team and getting through some heartaches to then achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve. And so, some sports are individualistic, some are team, but really go into sports understanding that it is a vehicle to make you better in life. You will see the dividends, and you will see the value that sports give you later on in life that at that moment you might not recognize.
Well, that's all I have for today. So thank you for taking time to come out here and let me interview you, ask you some questions, and you really answered them well, and gave me a different mindset on how sports is supposed to be played and what it's all about. And yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well,
And best of luck to you this next year and what you want to do, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or anything I can help you with.
okay.
All right, thank you.